I'm Bobby Broyles. He's Tim McDonald, back with this offseason edition of This Week in CAA Football, powered by Geico. Football is in the air, kind of, in more ways than one right now, Tim. Spring practices are underway across many of CAA Football's campuses. And today, the league announced its finalized composite schedule for the 2015 season. You all right with that, Tim?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm trying to pump the brakes a little bit, contain my excitement. Football's here again. I'm ready to go.
And the matching new polos too.
Congrats.
We're ready to go here.
It's a whole new year.
Exactly. We're here ready to go here at CAA Football. Each CAA Football team will play 11 games this fall, 3 non-conference, in addition to 8 league matchups. Included on the schedule are a total of 13 FBS opponents from the ACC, the Big Ten, the American, the MAC, and the Mountain West. Yep, indeed. And Tim, CAA Football will once again step up the competition this year.
There's no question. You have to love the way this schedule is laid out right now. CAA Football is, once again, like you just said, not afraid to step up and play the big boys. You look across the board, we don't have to deal with a non-D1 game this year, which is probably one of the few FCS conferences that's actually going to be able to say that this season. We don't know, obviously, how those are going to pan out, but still, you look up and down the board, every single team is playing an FBS game. 11-game schedule this year. Remember last year, some teams played 12-game schedules. There's a lot of intriguing matchups, and again, I don't want to get too excited here, but I will look ahead to some of my favorites right now. You look at JMU is going to play at Southern Methodist University. That's a game that they switched out of a non-FCS game with. You look at Maine, they're going to play 2 FBS games. They're going to play Tulane. They're going to play Boston College. Up and down the board, there's a couple of opportunities early in the season. I know it's only the spring, Bob, but looking ahead, you have to be happy if you're a CAA football fan, knowing every team up and down the board is going to play the big boys and going to have a shot.
CAA Football will also play 23 games this season against non-conference opponents from the FCS. The league went an impressive 28-14 against non-conference FCS foes a year ago.
You can't underestimate how important those games are, because you go back to the playoffs, you go back to the early portion of the schedule. CAA football teams, we know it better than anyone else. You start to beat each other up once conference play starts. So these non-FCS games these non-conference FCS games, I should say, are so important. You look up and down the board, a lot of teams this year with that 11-game schedule, you only have 2 other opportunities outside of that FBS game. You look at Maine, they're going to play Yale. You look at Rhode Island, they're going to play Harvard. James Madison's playing Lehigh, New Hampshire. A couple of other teams are playing Central Connecticut State. So you look up and down the board, there's only 2 opportunities, but still, I think it's pretty manageable what they've done. Those games are crucial once CAA football play starts. Everyone's going to try to beat each other up in those games. You look back, a win or a loss there can really determine your fate if you're going to make the playoffs. And I think CAA football teams continue to, and they've shown in the past that those games, they can succeed in that type of environment.
Absolutely. CAA Football League play kicks off on September the 12th when Rhode Island travels to UAlbany. The schedule is highlighted by 4 marquee matchups between teams that both reached the FCS playoffs last year.
You got to start with Richmond, because they're going to play all the teams that reached the playoffs last year. Look at Richmond at James Madison, Richmond at UNH, Richmond at Villanova. All 3 of those games round out Richmond's away schedule for the season, so that's a heck of a year. A couple of other games are sandwiched in between. That's a heck of a finish, though, if you're the Spiders. You also have to look at Villanova at James Madison. Let's not forget the Battle of the Blue, Delaware and Villanova. That game's not taking place like it always has at the end of the season. Thanks a lot, Pope Francis. But in all seriousness, that game's taking place on September 19th, so we have a potential already looming, the John Robertson versus Vad Lee, which is probably going to be brought up the whole season. But that game's going to be in the final. You look at it, it's just really exciting to start looking forward to it. And again, I know we're not trying to make any predictions or try to get crazy, but you look at some other teams, too, that I'm just excited to get going. New Hampshire, they have 3 road games to start the season, not to mention that 3rd game, a conference opener at Stony Brook. That one's looming. That one's a little bit of an upset in my mind. That's going to be exciting. You look at Maine, like I mentioned, at Richmond, at Villanova, and at New Hampshire. That's their away conference slate. Absolutely daunting, on top of their 2 FBS games. Towson has a 4-week stretch of JMU, Stony Brook, Villanova, and Delaware. Up and down the board, it's exciting to get into conference play. It's a little bit of news in the spring to get me going, Bob.
I'm sure.
I'll take anything I can get. I'm just ready for things.
You get very excited very easily. I love it. The season can't get here soon enough, and it all gets started with 4 night games on Thursday, September the 3rd. In the meantime, stay glued to CAAfootball.com and our social media accounts, as game times and TV schedules will be announced over the summer.